Welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist. The purpose of this work will be to unravel much of the complexity and mystery surrounding what a leader is and always has been. In my estimation, we have conflated management and leadership functions and muddled their definitions to such a degree that it is now a confusing morass of half-correct concepts. My observation is that we have convinced ourselves that college degrees, certificates of training, or position automatically make someone a leader. While there are thousands of programs around the world designed to create amazing leaders with guaranteed results or methods to turbocharge your leadership teams, we continue to see a preponderance of terrible or non-existent leadership in organizations and institutions. Two conclusions can be drawn from this. One, this terrible leadership is the desired outcome of that training, or the right people are not being developed and utilized. To be very clear about this series, it is not about how to be a leader, rather to discuss the underlying philosophical tenets that ideal leaders have had throughout history. I have spent some time making sure that I have not fallen into Nietzsche's concern that philosophers are writing down an autobiography of their thoughts or justification for their prejudices rather than discussing a common philosophy. This is, of course, a very rough idea from the first chapter in Beyond Good and Evil, and while I do not claim to be a philosopher, I think its wisdom is an appropriate precaution to observe in this situation. There are two quotes that I recently heard which were completely relevant to what I'm trying to achieve. First, from Eric Weinstein on his podcast, The Portal. He was discussing a different topic, but this quote applies to current leadership concepts as well. It is a very simple idea attended to by an outrageous amount of irrelevant complexity that has to be very carefully pried off the central concept. I will forever be grateful to him for saying this because nothing more clearly describes the confusion surrounding leaders and leadership. The second quote describes exactly what I'm hoping this series and subsequent videos will achieve, which is to immerse the hypothesis in the acid of truth, which came from the late Professor S. Fred Singer. My hypothesis can be summarized in three parts. First, leadership is a creative talent like writing, art, comedy, music, etc. Second, that talent brings with it the ability to influence people, which can have great or catastrophic results if that power is not tempered by an underlying ideal philosophy that has been consistent for thousands of years. Finally, the terms leader and leadership have been improperly utilized, which has created a tangled mess that will require some serious attention and uncomfortable changes to correct. The initial series of videos will be broken down into 7 topics: the problem, the definition, the archetype, the hierarchy followed by the competency, the philosophy, and finally the solution, which is in 2 parts, talking about some proposed ideas on how to identify leaders and then how to mentor, develop, and utilize them. In my estimation, this series will be of interest to everyone in an organization regardless of their position. For natural leaders, it will possibly provide insight into what you instinctively or reflexively do, but perhaps do not understand the underlying reasons. For employees, it will give you a perspective and clarity into a significant reason you may be delighted or completely unsatisfied with your job, and help you see good and bad leaders for what they are. For management types that are looking for the next system to make their organization more harmonious, quick hint, there's no system here. This will hopefully show how mechanical systems are incompatible with leading people. I respectfully ask that you go through the entire series once to become familiar with the organization of my thoughts before asking questions. I do not mean this to sound grandiose or insulting. It is just that this process has been like separating ingredients of a stew after it has been made. Many preconceived notions are dissected and analyzed, so it is useful to go through the journey. Once that is done, I look forward to the discussion. To close, nothing in what I have to offer here is a shiny new process or system. This is instead an effort to reveal and reconnect with the ancient wisdom and philosophy exemplified by leaders, recorded by storytellers and scholars, and preserved as the ideal throughout millennia. My ultimate goal is to make employees, regardless of their role, less miserable while performing their job. Work brings with it its own attendant difficulty, so why don't we do everything in our power to avoid extra layers of suffering and misery as a result of bad leadership? I appreciate you listening. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.